Sure. Well, thanks everybody for coming out, and it's a beautiful day out there, so appreciate you taking the time to come over. Hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of practice before we came in here. As John mentioned, it was a good win over St. Francis, and we will celebrate all wins. If it ever gets to a point where we don't celebrate a win, we're doing something wrong. We statistically dominated the game. We played a lot of guys in all three phases, which was good to see. The statistics were lopsided: 32 first downs to 7, 370 rushing to 11. We didn't punt. They punted 9 times. So those are all good indicators. But that being said, when you really peel it back and look under the hood, we are far from where we need to be as a team and in all three phases. And so if you say, why aren't you a little bit happier today? Well, that's the reason why. Our perimeter blocking was, I could use a lot of terms to describe it, but it was somewhere between atrocious and embarrassing. We pride ourselves on being a gritty, blue-collar, assume nothing, grind type of outfit, and we looked like the Brat Pack out there blocking on the perimeter. I don't know if maybe some of our guys had dates set up with Molly Ringwald and Ali Sheedy after the game, but that was not very good. Our offensive rhythm, there's times that we're moving and changing our tempos the way we need to, and there's times we're just out of sync, and so we need to continue to improve that. Using our hands, we talk about tight hands and elbows as a fundamental, and doing that on defense and on special teams, knocking people back, accelerating our feet, disengaging from blocks, finishing people off, just applying those good fundamentals to those two phases. And we had several wide hands violators, I like to call them. We just need to do a better job of tracking the ball and putting our face on it. There's some really good examples. Mitch Gonzer had one on their sideline that was outstanding. But there were some other times that we were overrunning things, allowing the ball to cut back, giving up some extra yards, some what we call yak yards after contact, that we definitely need to clean those things up. Kickoff coverage, I didn't think we were nearly as physical as we need to be or we have been in the past. We are looking for guys that are going to go down there and avoid when they're supposed to avoid and run through somebody when they're supposed to run through somebody, and we don't need any Roger Dorns playing third base. So that needs to improve. And then I would just say our overall awareness and attention to detail and just physically finishing off plays in all three phases. So we are a work in progress for sure. There's definitely a sense of urgency that starting with me and through the staff and the support staff and needs to permeate on down through the team itself. We've got a conference game this week on the road, and the second you turn on the film and start watching Kent State, the first thing that jumps out to you is this is not last year's Kent State team. This is a team playing with a lot of energy, a lot of zeal, a lot of cohesiveness. They have a plan, and they're sticking to the plan, and they're playing 60 minutes. I give a lot of credit to the new head coach, Mark Carney. He's a guy I have a long history with. He was actually a quarterback at Fordham when I was the head coach at Lehigh, and then he stuck around Fordham and worked for Dave Clawson there. Dave and I are two coaches. Dave's now retired, but two coaches that have the same two mentors and have a lot of coaches that have been in the same coaching tree. Mark had some guys with him at Bowling Green that are former assistants of mine, so you see some similarities for sure in terms of the offensive system to things that I was very familiar with different offensive coordinators of my own through the years. Mark did a great job as the OC at Charlotte. He was the OC at Kent State before getting promoted. And he's a smart guy. He's an experienced play caller, has a really, really good system. And these guys are playing well in that system. They won their opener in dramatic fashion, a kickoff return for a touchdown, and you could just see it was like getting the monkey off their back. And now, this is a team that, is confident and playing well. They ran into a buzzsaw for sure at Texas Tech. Texas Tech looks like a legitimate top 25 team. But I'm sure Kent is equally as excited as we are to get into conference play. And, my own experience going over to Dick Stadium is that is a very challenging place to play. I already started touching on their offense, but they're very multiple. So you're going to get 11 personnel, you're going to get 12 personnel, you're going to get 10 personnel. They do a great job with their cadence, with their formations, their shifts, their motions. They'll do some things moving the back late after the defense declares. They've got an excellent screen game, a very good RPO game. They do an excellent job of getting yards after the catch. They played two experienced quarterbacks the first 2 weeks. Montez is actually a former Fordham quarterback that's had success against UB. So he's a transfer for them. And then DeShields, number 12, seems very adept running their system. In the backfield, Garcia, number 5, is a good back. One of their wide receivers, Kimbrough, they've played him quite a bit in the backfield. And then they have a transfer from Minnesota that apparently was banged up during preseason that in all likelihood will be back and ready to play in our game. I like their group of wide receivers very much. 3 Etheridge, 85 Brown, 6 Harris, 21 Wolford has got 3 touchdown receptions already, all explosive plays. One of them came against Texas Tech, the other 2 against Merrimack. He's an outstanding player. I think he's well on track to be an all-MAC type of guy. And then number 30, Clark. You go back and you watch last year's cut-ups of these guys, and they generated a lot of explosive plays on offense, whether it was Ball State, Eastern Michigan, Bowling Green, Akron, and even in our game, and they certainly did against Merrimack. The O-line is a big, long group, so they'll have a good plan of attack for us on offense, and we've got to continue to improve on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a new defensive coordinator. It's a 4-2-5 package. They're not overly complicated, but they're very fundamentally sound, and they know how to fit things, and they play really hard. They'll bring some interior pressures. They'll bring some edge pressures. It'll be a good mix of 2 high and 1 high safety looks. They do a nice job with their disguises. One edge player, number 4, Mathis, is a transfer from Southern Illinois. He's been very productive the first 2 weeks. I really like 3 D tackles they play. 5 Aiden's a Pitt transfer, 6 Maddox, and a 3rd guy that they rotate through. It's an experienced group of linebackers. Number 3, Young. 0, Mason Woods, who's their Mike's a very good player. 10, Williams. So that's a physical group. And then number 13, the safety Tucker, is their leader on the back end. So this is a very sound, solid defense that is playing hard. They did not give up a lot of explosive plays against Merrimack. Texas Tech was able to get behind them a little bit, but I think Texas Tech's probably going to be able to do that to a lot of people this season. On special teams, I already mentioned the kickoff return for a touchdown in week 1. Number 30, Clark, one of their wideouts, was responsible for that. And then number 6, Harris, at punt returner, had an explosive return in that game as well. They've played 2 punters. It's a mix of angle punts and rugby punts. They've got a veteran kicker. So I think this is a very competent special teams that's proven to be explosive already. So here we go. We got Maction in September, early to mid-September. We'll be rolling out of here early afternoon on Friday and going over there to check out the stadium, and then staying at a hotel up in Cleveland. And we got an early kickoff on Saturday, so we got to keep this week rolling along. So that said, I'll open it up for your questions.
Can you take us through game 1 to game 2 for Taquan Roberson and what you've seen? I mean, he hadn't started in 2 years, so you've got 2 games in. Can you give us a sense of what you're seeing him settling in with?
Sure. Well, I would say he has exceeded expectations in terms of his ability to run the ball. We saw that in the second and third quarters against Minnesota. And then we saw several impressive runs in this past game. And to be able to continue that aspect of our offense with somebody who hasn't run it as much previously in his career is really, really good to see. Because if you can't run the quarterback in this day and age, people are just going to overload the box on you. And you got to find ways to add a number somehow. Running the quarterback is one way to do it. Throwing RPOs is another way to do it. Running different kinds of misdirection is a way to try to help that. So the fact that through 2 games you turn on the film and you say that you have to honor this guy, whether it's any kind of read plays that we run with him, or any kind of draw plays, or even some scrambles, that's an encouraging aspect. And I think where we need to see improvement is just some of the being in sync with the wideouts and the throwing and catching and completing a higher percentage of throws, and hopefully that'll come.
What can you tell us about Victor Snow? A couple touchdowns last few games. What do you see in him, and how do you like his play?
So Victor Snow arguably is the hardest working guy on our football team. And that's not to say that we don't have a lot of guys that are very dedicated and hard working. We certainly do in all 3 phases. But when you look at the outputs on our GPS system, inevitably, even if it's a day where Vic is supposed to be doing a little bit less, he just goes. He's like the Energizer Bunny, and he just never seems to get tired, and he never seems to amaze or disappoint relative to making plays. And the amazing thing about that game was that he had all these high GPS number outputs, and we didn't punt one time in the entire game. He's our starting gunner on punt. Usually that's where a lot of his yardage will come, in addition to everything he's doing at wide receiver. So appreciate him, his dedication. He's very coachable. He's very focused. And I think the reason he ends up having productive games week after week is that he practices well during the week. And you go back to last season, he made some plays early. He had a disappointing game against UConn, and then came the bye week, and that was a chance for him to refocus. And really, since then, he has been just a really high-end player for us. And of course, the punt returns, unfortunately we had 2 that were negated because of penalties, but he still had a very productive day returning punts as well.
Your defense has played well through 2 games. How much of it has been getting from particularly Kobe Stewart and Malin White, getting the pass rush off the edge without having to blitz, just being able to push the pocket from both sides? How much does that trigger where you want to go defensively?
Yeah, it was one of our goals coming into this season, was how much pass rush can we generate only bringing 4 guys? And, we do a lot of stunting with our D-line, a lot of movements with our D-line. There's no secret to that. We do it on rundowns, we do it on pass downs. Those guys do a great job, not just rushing on the edge, but when we're trying to penetrate with them, rock them into the B gaps or even down into the A gaps. They're powerful enough rushers that they can move that pocket back and restrict the pocket even when they're inside pass rushers, not just pure edge guys. So very pleased with both of them. They're incredible human beings. Two guys that, even though they're at the tail end of their careers, remain very coachable. Malin still plays a lot of special teams for us as an integral part of our field goal unit and our punt unit, and also a backup on kickoff. So certainly appreciate how he continues to be very dedicated there. And Kobe is a backup on several units as well.
All these players have responsibilities all week. You said your responsibility is to kind of establish urgency from the top down. How do you do that in this day and age where, with social media and everything, there's like so many perspectives out there at all times?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, our guys are the typical young adults, but they are pretty focused. And I'll give you one example. We had a leadership council meeting recently, and I tend to just throw some things out there and solicit their feedback on it. And one of the things we were talking about was just trying to tone down how much we're on our phones. And I don't want to get to a point where I'm being super restrictive, where we've got to, put them on a shelf or throw them in a duffel bag when we go into a certain phase of our preparation. But trying to put that onus back on them to say, let's be responsible and make sure that we're prioritizing things at the right time and not being distracted by things. So, there's hope with young people this age, and I think we've got a lot of fabulous guys in this team and in this program. They care a lot, and they don't mind being coached hard. And when we're coaching them hard, we're coaching them for life, right? Because there's a difference between the young person that walks across campus like this and the young person that walks across campus with a big chest and is making eye contact and engaging people and saying hello to people and building relationships. And I know who I'd like to hire. So we want to produce those kind of guys in our program.
Some NFL coaches have talked about they've had to adjust to the world, phones, social media, shorter meetings to give guys breaks to go check their phones, like things that didn't used to happen. Any examples or anything that you feel like you've had to change just to adapt to the world that we live in?
Yes, you have to keep adapting. And it is a different world than when I first became a head coach in 2001. And so you have to evolve, and we're all just as guilty of it as anybody else, that we could all say we need to tone that back and spend less time on it. I do think there is still a value in being disciplined and saying, I'm not going to do this at this time. And the more we can take that approach to different aspects of our life, the more successful we're going to be. And so the structure and the accountability are things that we take great pride in. They're core parts of our program. And so when we do say, hey, it's time to put it away, it's time to turn it off, we need our guys to see the big picture on that and know that there's some good coming from that. But I'm not at a point yet where I'm saying, hey, the minute we leave campus until the minute we get back, you can't be on it or something like that. I think, like most things in life, there's got to be balance and moderation, and we're trying to build trust with our guys to make sure that they're using those things at the appropriate times.
Always unusual to have a conference game in the month of September like this. Doesn't happen all that often. Anything that you're doing differently because of that? Anything that you need to do to make the guys aware that this is a conference game now?
Really, not a whole lot different, because a Tuesday is a Tuesday and a Wednesday will be a Wednesday, and we do what we do regardless of who we're playing. I know I said last week that I coached just as hard in preparation right up until the walkthroughs on the day of the game for St. Francis as you would for Minnesota, as you would for Kent State. But our guys do understand that every Mid-American Conference game is a championship game, right? And so this game this Saturday at 12:02 at Dick's Stadium is just as important as a game that's going to be played in the month of November. So they all matter an equal amount, and so there has to be a heightened sense of urgency, which there needs to be anyway, because regardless of who we're playing, we need to play a whole lot better in all three phases. But yes, this is a championship game, and they all matter equally. Okay, thank you.